Now, the historic meeting between the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump is currently underway after it started, like I said, at 9 a.m. local time, which is 10 a.m. here in South Korea. And for more on this, our Jiyoon, who is part of Arirang's special Singapore summit coverage team, is out there in the city-state for us. Jiyoon, tell us more about how the summit is moving along.
Jiyoon, we are now into the third hour of the summit, and the two leaders are now having their expanded meeting with their top aides by their sides. And to tell you more about the delegates, the U.S. Delegates include Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Chief of Staff John Kelly, and National Security Advisor John Bolton. And for the North Koreans, they are Vice Chairman of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party Central Committee Kim Yongchol, Vice Chairman of the ruling Workers' Party Ri Su-yong, and Foreign Affairs Minister Ri Yongho. Now, the talks began slightly before 10 a.m. local time and is scheduled for an hour and a half. So there's about 30 minutes left of that meeting. Now, if the earlier meeting of one-on-one between Kim and Trump was to see each other's sincerity and determination to commit in what would be a historic deal, this expanded meeting is where the two sides will finalize and make the complete version of a possible joint declaration for today's summit. And after this, the two sides will hold a working lunch, which will be joined by Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, National Security Council Senior Director for Asia Matt Pottinger, and Ambassador Sung Kim, a former nuclear negotiator who had been at the forefront of working-level talks with the North until the very last day. But we do not yet know who will be joining from the North. And that lunch will be the last schedule for this historic summit, but there is still a possibility for it to be extended like we all thought it was going to be, considering the optimistic and hopeful atmosphere shown a while ago. And to do so, Kim Jong-un will have to reschedule his flight, as he is expected to fly back to Pyongyang at 2 p.m. according to Reuters. Now, while Trump is scheduled to hold a press briefing in the afternoon and return to the States at 8 p.m., Bloomberg said, citing a U.S. official, that Trump was willing to stay longer in Singapore depending on how the summit goes. But they say the revelation of Kim Jong-un's surprisingly early departure also prompted Trump to schedule his flight earlier.
Now, can you tell us more about their first historic encounter?
Sure, Jiyoon, you gave us a recap a while ago at the beginning of the newscast, but I will run through it again. Now, the historic moment happened at exactly 9:04. Now, when they shook hands, the two had firm faces, but it was nothing serious or nothing negative. It was friendliness, a careful friendliness rather. And this careful friendliness was shown further when Trump showed gentle touches on Kim numerous times, like patting Kim on the back as they made their way to the summit room. And while their first encounter is significant in itself, there's more to talk about it in their first encounter. It seemed like much effort had been made to put the leaders on the same level, neither of them having the upper hand or more power. The two leaders entered at the exact same time from each end to meet at the very center. And that scene is probably what North Korea has wanted for a long time, as it has been wanting to be seen as an equal partner to the U.S. Now, once they were in the room, they both took turns to make short comments on the summit. Now, unlike the uncertainties that was raised before this moment, Trump was very optimistic that the meeting will be tremendously successful. He also said they will have a terrific relationship ahead and that it was an honor to meet Kim. And I think that this was Trump's efforts to start the meeting on a positive tone, considering how it is not easy for someone to speak so highly of the other after their years-long adversaries and looming uncertainties over today's summit. Now, Kim also Kim, on the other hand, mentioned briefly on their past relations, saying how it was not easy for North Korea and the United States to come all the way up to where they are now. But by saying that Kim Jong-un, by saying that they are now here after overcoming all the prejudice and obstacles, Kim expressed a very future-oriented and optimistic tone towards this meeting as well. And with that, the two leaders started their 45-minute-long one-on-one meeting with only the interpreters, and we're guessing that it was an opportunity for the two leaders to have exchanged their deep opinions.
Okay, so can you tell us more about what this historic in the making is all about?
Sure, Jiyoon. We're hoping that this deal would once and for all put a definite end to North Korea's nuclear programs. There have been numerous agreements made before, but they all failed, mainly for lack of trust for each other, according to many experts I talked to. And while the U.S. is asking for North Korea's complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization, or CVID, the North too is asking for a complete, verifiable, irreversible security guarantee, also known as CVIG. Now, we did hear from inside sources that there was a conflict between the two sides on putting CVID on paper, as the North sees it as portraying the regime as a defeated country. Now, we also heard that the two sides had issues in the dismantling process of North Korea's nuclear weapons. The U.S. seeks to take out all of North Korea's ready-made nuclear materials. But with Pyongyang also firm on what it wants, including establishing diplomatic ties with the U.S., setting a peace treaty, and lifting economic sanctions, we're hoping that the two sides have good enough cards to give and exchange to each other so that a satisfactory conclusion can be made after today's summit. Back to you, Jiyoon.